It was a recent print. We'd just taken it that fall, all of us standing stiff in front of a pumpkin patch sign that said, "Homegrown and grateful." A friend had snapped it for us. Everyone was smiling. Even my mother. Especially my mother. I printed the photo 2 weeks ago, slid it into a cheap wooden frame, and placed it on the hallway shelf. It sat beside Harper's second-grade painting of our backyard, a purple sun, and a dog we never owned. I hadn't thought much of the photo until the day I found it. Ripped split right through the center, and missing my mother's face. Harper didn't hide it, didn't wait to be asked. She walked into the kitchen, holding the torn photo with both hands, and said, "She doesn't deserve to be in this family." Then she handed it to me, like evidence. Like I was the judge, like she already knew she wouldn't be punished for the verdict. It started with small things. Little phrases Harper would say at bedtime. "Nana says you worry too much. Nana said it's silly when kids cry over nothing. Nana says I'm a little dramatic like you." At first I brushed it off. I thought maybe Harper misunderstood. Maybe my mother was joking. She always said things with that half smile, the kind that gave her permission to be cruel as long as it sounded clever. But Harper didn't laugh when she repeated them. She just reported them, like facts, like headlines, like someone had taken her feelings and folded them in half before she could finish them. The day after she tore the photo, I asked her quietly, "Why did you do that?" She looked at me. Not defensive, not scared, just honest. "Because Nana said I wasn't a good girl at dinner, but I didn't do anything wrong, I just didn't finish the meat. And that made you upset." She nodded. She said I always leave things half done like you. And there it was. Not an insult, a pattern. Passed down, dressed up, delivered with a polite tone and a forkful of guilt. I remembered all the years I spent explaining myself to a woman who never really listened, only waited for her turn to speak. How she'd twist concern into control. How she'd call me ungrateful when I asked for space. How she'd end every fight with, "You always think you're right, don't you?" Even when I wasn't fighting. Even when I was just breathing differently from how she wanted me to. And now she was doing it to Harper, smiling the whole time, calling it discipline, calling it structure, calling it love. But Harper had done what I never dared to. She saw it. She named it, and she cut it out literally. With scissors and 6 words that shattered me more than any legal threat ever could. She doesn't deserve to be in this family. I looked at the torn photo again that night. Not as a memory, as a boundary. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilty. Because Harper didn't need a perfect grandmother. She needed a mother who would finally say, "That's enough." I never noticed how small I became when she visited, until I saw Harper do it. There was a dinner last month, nothing unusual. My mother brought her usual casserole. She complimented the napkins, then corrected how I'd set the forks. I said nothing. Not because I agreed, not because I didn't care. I said nothing because I've said nothing for so many years. My silence has its own chair at the table, and Harper saw it. She watched me nod. She watched me change the forks. She watched me go still. Later that night, Harper asked why Nana always called me soft. At first I laughed, then I stopped. Because the way she said it, like she didn't want to say it at all, told me everything. She wasn't asking what the word meant. She was asking why I didn't defend myself. I remembered being her age, trying not to cry when my mother rolled her eyes after I said I liked a boy, trying to laugh along when she mimicked how I sang in the school play, trying to convince myself that joking and judging weren't the same thing. And then I remembered something else. A moment I hadn't touched in years. I was 13. She had just come back from the grocery store and asked me to put things away. I dropped a jar of pasta sauce. It shattered. She didn't yell. She just looked at the floor, then at me and said, "If I left for good, would you still be this careless?" I had no answer. I apologized. Then I cleaned the mess and told myself, "You have to be better. You have to be smaller. You have to keep her from leaving." Now Harper was asking me why I was soft, and I couldn't lie to her the way I had lied to myself. So I told her the truth. Because I learned to be quiet around someone who punished me every time I spoke too loud, and I thought that if I kept things peaceful, I was protecting us both. She nodded slowly. But I don't want to be soft if soft means sad. And I knew then what I had to do. It wasn't about protecting Harper from my mother's words anymore. It was about showing her that we don't shrink for anyone, not even for people who gave us life. She came by the next Sunday, unannounced as always, holding a box of cookies. Harper liked the kind she'd used more than once to smooth things over. She didn't ask if it was a good time. She never did. I opened the door. She smiled and said she was just in the area. Then she handed me the box and asked if Harper was free to play cards like old times. I didn't step aside. I didn't invite her in. Instead, I held the door where it was, just open enough to make it clear I was listening, just still enough to make it clear I wouldn't move. Not today, I said. She tilted her head like she hadn't heard me correctly. Is something wrong? I could have told her about the things Harper repeated back to me. I could have mentioned the photo, the tone, the size, the soft poisons layered under every smile. But I didn't, because this wasn't a courtroom, and I wasn't looking for permission. We need space, I told her. She blinked, then laughed the way she does when she feels insulted but doesn't want to look wounded. You mean you need space? Harper still loves me? She's learning how to love people who don't confuse her. Her face hardened. She asked if I was blaming her for something I said no. I'm protecting my daughter. Something you once told me was the most important thing a mother can do. The silence that followed didn't crack. It settled. Then she nodded just once. If that's what you think is best. It is. She walked back to her car. Not storming, not in tears. But I saw her shoulders fold inward just slightly. That used to make me feel guilty. This time, I just closed the door and locked it. Not because I hated her, but because I finally understood that peace isn't the absence of noise. It's the absence of walking on eggshells in your own home. The first drawing caught me by surprise. She taped it to the fridge while I was cooking. I turned around with a spoon in hand and saw it a house, a sky, a crooked sun, and just the two of us. I asked if it was for school. She said no, it was just how she felt. I didn't comment on who wasn't in the picture. I didn't have to. She knew I saw it. She watched my eyes before returning to her cereal like nothing was unusual. But it was, for the first time in her drawings, my mother wasn't standing behind us. The second one came 2 days later. This time it was the kitchen. She'd drawn the table, the orange rug, my chipped mug, and us again. She drew herself sitting in my lap. I was reading. She was smiling. The third one had a tree in it, just one. Not the big family picnic scene she used to copy from photos. No more clusters of bodies with names scrawled underneath. No more stick figure grandmothers with 2 red lipstick. Now there was space and quiet, and no one watching from the edge of the page. Children don't erase people the way adults do. They don't delete. They simply stop including. And watching Harper draw that boundary without being told, without being prompted, felt heavier than any confrontation I'd had with my mother. Because it wasn't revenge. It was peace. A new version of home that didn't include tension disguised as tradition. That night, she asked me if I liked the drawings. I told her I loved them. She asked why I didn't draw too. I almost said I forgot how, but then I realized I didn't forget. I stopped when I was her age. Around the same time, I started monitoring the edges of every room I walked into. Around the same time, I learned to make people comfortable even if I wasn't. She handed me a marker and pointed at the empty side of the page. Draw you and me again, but this time, make the hugs bigger. So I did, and for the first time, I let myself take up space on the paper. No edits, no shrinking. Just us. And a sky big enough to fit every version of ourselves we were still learning to trust. The box was small, wrapped in pink foil. No return address, but the handwriting on the label was unmistakable. Harper's name was spelled in all caps as if that made it more loving. I found it on the porch 2 days before her birthday. She was watching a movie in the living room when I carried it inside. I didn't hide it, but I didn't offer it either. I placed it on the counter. She saw it and she waited. Then she said, "It's from her, isn't it?" I nodded. She didn't flinch. She walked over and sat on the bar stool like it was any other package. Her fingers touched the edge of the ribbon, but she didn't untie it. "Can I open it just to see and not keep it if I don't want to?" Yes, that was all I said, because she wasn't asking for permission. She was asking if she had the right to choose. Inside a silver bracelet with small heart charms, a gift card to her favorite bookstore, and a folded note. No happy birthday. No love, Nana. Just 4 lines written in the center of the page. I know your mother means well, but one day you'll understand she kept us apart. I'll always be nearby waiting. Love finds a way. Harper read it once. She folded it again, not angrily, not dramatically. Then she said, "This isn't love. This is just a trap in cursive." I didn't speak. She placed the bracelet back in the box. She kept the bookstore card. She tore the note once, then again, and dropped it into the trash bin like it never belonged in our kitchen. That night I asked her if she felt okay. She nodded. It's weird, I thought it would hurt, but it didn't. Why not? Because she didn't get to write the ending I did. I tucked her in slower than usual, not because she needed it, because I did. Because in her quiet certainty, I saw the version of myself I used to need. The one who could read a lie wrapped in love and refuse to wear it. It was buried at the bottom of a shoebox, the box where I used to keep things I wasn't brave enough to throw away. A hospital wristband. The envelope with Harper's first ultrasound and the old phone, black cracked at the corner, still holding one voicemail I never deleted. The screen flickered to life when I charged it. Only one message saved, dated 3 years ago. I hesitated before pressing play. "Hey, it's me. I know you're upset, but I just wanted to say I've been thinking about you, about Harper. I know I wasn't perfect, but I did the best I could. Maybe one day when you're not so emotional, you'll remember that." Her voice was soft, measured, practiced. The kind of tone that leaves bruises under the skin, not on it. You always were dramatic as a child. Always needed things said a certain way. I tried. But you're impossible when you're in that mood. I didn't cry. Not because I was strong, because there was nothing left in those words I hadn't already bled out years ago. It was never an apology. It was a performance. A monologue written to twist accountability into memory. To take the blame and hand it back, wrapped in velvet. "I know you'll come around. You always do." That was the last line. No goodbye, no pause. Just the assumption that I'd break my own rules like I always had. I pressed delete. The phone asked me twice if I was sure. I pressed yes both times. And when the screen cleared, I finally realized I hadn't saved that message because I needed it. I saved it because I thought it was proof, but now I no longer needed to prove anything. Not to her. Not to myself. It was late. I was brushing her hair after a warm bath. Her shoulders were relaxed, her breath steady. The house wrapped in that kind of quiet only comes after long emotional seasons. That's when she asked, "When I'm grown up, do I have to visit her?" She didn't say her name. She didn't need to. Her voice wasn't angry, just careful, like she was asking a question she'd already spent time with in her own head. I paused, held the brush in midair. "No," I said. Just that, a single word without hesitation. But what if she tries to call or sends letters again? Then you get to decide if you want to read them or not. But what if everyone else says I should forgive her? I met her eyes in the mirror. Then everyone else will have to get used to being wrong. Her face didn't change much, but the way she leaned back into me without tension, without second-guessing, said everything. She needed permission, not to cut someone out, not to hate. She needed permission to not keep trying when something already hurt her. "Mom." "Yeah. Is it okay if I never want her in my house?" "It's more than okay. It's wise." She smiled. The small, relieved kind, like an internal knot, had finally been named and untied. That night, I added a new note to her file, not in any official system, just in mine. A note that said, "Do not forget when she was brave enough to ask, you were brave enough to answer." And for once, the version of me in her memory would not be the daughter who stayed quiet. It would be the mother who gave her a way out before she ever felt trapped. It started with a message from a coworker. "Hey, is this about you?" Attached was a screenshot of a Facebook post from a page my mother always used to share inspirational quotes from. Her profile picture still had Harper in it, a photo from 4 birthdays ago. The post read, "When a mother gives everything and still gets erased, when your love becomes a weapon used against you, when your grandchild forgets your voice because of someone else's pride, you pray, you let go, you forgive anyway." I didn't respond. Not to the post, not to the coworker, not even to the part of me that wanted to scream. Because the post wasn't for me. It was for them, the audience, the ones who only needed half a story and a soft filter to cry along. The comments poured in. "She'll come around someday, don't lose hope. You're so strong, God sees your heart." Some daughters forget who raised them. Kids these days so cruel to their own blood. She liked every comment, responded to each one with folded hands or white doves. I stared at the screen and didn't feel rage. I felt unsurprised, like I'd just walked into a room that always smelled like smoke and finally saw the match in her hand. This wasn't new. She'd always been good at building a narrative where she hurt quietly while the rest of us looked loud and ungrateful. This time, the narrative just had hashtags. That night, Harper saw me staring at my phone and asked if it was work. No, I said, it's someone writing fiction. She didn't ask what kind. She just handed me a crayon. Draw something real, then. So I did. Not for the internet, not for defense, not for clarity. For me, because I realized that the most dangerous liars aren't the ones who shout. They're the ones who speak softly and wait for applause. The sun was setting as we stood outside, the warm orange light spilling over the backyard. This time, there was no forced smile, no awkward positioning, no family drama hiding behind the lens, just Harper, me, and the dog who'd been with us through every chapter. We didn't need anyone else in the frame. For the first time, I felt the weight of a real family photo, one that wasn't built around what we lacked, but what we had. Harper stood beside me a little taller now. She still had her wide eyes, but this time they weren't asking questions about what was missing. They were focused on what was here. I pulled her close, kissed her forehead. She smiled up at me, and I saw it not just love, but trust. I didn't need to say the words out loud. I didn't need anyone's approval, because this photo wasn't just for us. It was a promise that we'd never let anyone make us feel incomplete again. When the picture was taken, Harper asked if we could print it out and hang it somewhere. I nodded. Of course, this one stays up. This is the real one. The photo isn't perfect. It's not a story of flawless smiles or flawless people. But it is ours. And for the first time, I think it's enough.